Great. We record these meetings so that if anyone missed the meeting, they can access this information online on NDOT's website. So if your neighbor missed and is interested to know more about it, I have some information towards the end where you can direct them to the correct website. But my name is Amy Birch. I'm a traffic engineer, transportation engineer that is a consultant that works with NDOT to help facilitate this traffic calming program, and I thank you all for being here. We have a pretty big group online joined, so I thank you for giving us some of your time this evening to talk about the Beech Bend traffic calming project. And first overview of what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to tell you more about the traffic calming program and the process that we go through. We'll sort of discuss some of the data and information we have about your street and potential solutions. We'll talk about our traffic calming toolbox, the ways in which we try to reduce speeding on residential streets, and we have a number of those tools in our toolbox. Then we have a preliminary design concept that we have prepared as a starting point, as a talking point to go over with you all. It's intended to solicit some feedback from the neighborhood about, whether you like it or you don't, or should we adjust it in some way based on your feedback. And then we will talk about the next steps in the project. Also on the side here is a QR code that takes you to Nashville's Engage Nashville page and the traffic calming projects there. So if you're viewing this after the fact or even now, you can use this QR code to take you to that page. That's where we are updating information specific to this project on that project page. So let's go over some background information. What is traffic calming? This program focuses on residential streets, and what we are doing is physical solutions that encourage slower speeds over the length of the street, and we're really targeting speeding. We talk about our 3 E's of traffic calming being education, enforcement, and engineering. Education, we do a lot of that through these meetings as we reach out to communities to talk about traffic calming. Enforcement is the job that the police department does. And I think we can all agree that the police can't, just doesn't have the resources to enforce speeding or compliance of the speed limit on all streets within the entire city and county. And so that's where the engineering comes in, and that's what NDOT focuses on, which is how do we modify the street to the street's design and character to encourage slower speeds. So one of the main reasons why NDOT is focused on reducing speeding is our commitment to Vision Zero and safety throughout the city. And this infographic is showing some national information about the correlation between a vehicle speed and a pedestrian's chance of survival if hit by a vehicle going that speed. So on the left side is at 25 miles per hour, a pedestrian's chance of survival is 89%. Then as speed goes up to 35 miles per hour, a pedestrian's chance of survival goes down to 68%. And at 45 miles per hour, that chance of survival goes down to 35%. And so this is really what we're trying to avoid and correct. And then also I'd like to point out that there's a lot of other benefits of driving slower on residential streets, or really any street. But as you have a slower driving speed, you have a wider cone of vision, so you can see more of the road in front of you and what's off to the side of the road, the street in front of you. And then, so also at a lower speed, a driver has more time to react, slow down, and avoid a collision altogether. So we're really focused on bringing speeds down through this program. This is a application-based program focused on neighborhood streets. We do have a very high demand for the traffic calming program. As of last September, we had over 700 neighborhood streets that had applied for traffic calming. And in fall of 2025, 25 neighborhood streets were selected from those 700 streets that had applied. And that the number is based on funding that's allocated through council for this program. And there's 2 selections per year. So the program essentially works with 50 neighborhood streets per year to implement traffic calming. This map to the right is taken from our online tracker map that's publicly accessible through NDOT's traffic calming website. But it shows the streets that have applied for traffic calming, where they are in the status of either being selected or currently in the design meeting phase, which is where Beech Bend Drive is in the program, or if the project's been completed and installed with vertical measures and so forth. So this is an interactive map that you can reach through NDOT's website. And then outside of the hub, outside of traffic calming, we just want to make sure everyone is aware of the hub, Hub Nashville. It's an excellent resource that Metro government has to connect citizens to the right department to reach services that may be needed. So you can reach that by calling 311 on your smartphone. You can go online at hub.Nashville.gov. There's also a smart app you can download to your phone and make those service requests. It may be that a street light is out and you want to alert the proper department to have that fixed. A sign's been knocked down. The stormwater grate is clogged, causing flooding in your yard. Trash didn't get picked up on the right days, things like that. It's a great resource. So it's not just NDOT, it's all Metro government, and it really connects you to the right department to get a resolution or an answer. So back to traffic calming though. As I told you, we had over 700 streets at a time that are requesting traffic calming on their neighborhood street. And at one time, we're selecting 50 streets per year based on that. So how do we select the streets that receive traffic calming? It's based on a prioritization methodology that is data driven. And this graph is showing how that breaks down, but there's 5 criteria that we're looking at. Vehicular speed is the one that is weighted the highest at 45% of the score. We measure the 85th percentile speed on a street and compare that to our desired speed of 25 miles per hour. And the 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of the traffic over the course of a day is going that speed or below. And it's really just a measurement that we traffic engineers often reference because it gives us a good sense of what the speed conditions are on a street. Then we also look at volume. That's worth 25% of the score. Then we're also looking at non-driver accommodations. So are there sidewalks on the street? Are there bike lanes on the street? Bus routes on the street or nearby where people might be walking to and from? Then we're also looking, and that's worth 15% of the score. Then we also look at the vulnerable users and injuries and fatalities. That's pedestrian bicycle crashes on the street. And we look back at 10 years worth of data on that, and that's worth 10% of the score. And then we also take into consideration trip destinations that may be nearby a street. So parks, schools, libraries, community centers, places where we would expect people within nearby on adjacent streets to be walking to and from or biking to and from. I do have a question. Has any person been hit on Beech Bend that came in through the chat, and I did look that up and know in the last 10 years, very thankfully, there's not been a crash on Beech Bend. So no score was allocated from that criteria for Beech Bend. Now, I want to talk about what part of Beech Bend we're talking about. It's really the whole street. It's between Old Harding Pike and Harpeth Bend Drive, and we've identified some of the data points that we've looked into that contributed to Beech Bend Drive being selected. One was the measured 85th percentile speed was 37 miles per hour. And that is, again, 85%, the 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of the traffic is going that speed or below. It also means that 15% of the traffic is going above 37 miles per hour when we measured it. Mm-hmm. The volume is relatively low on Beech Bend, which I think we would expect, being that it doesn't, provide a lot of regional connectivity, but it does have some pretty high speeds for a posted speed limit of 25. The street width is roughly 31 feet wide. There's kind of different sections of Beech Bend, but there are bike lanes. Some of the bike lanes are buffered with the additional striping and delineators towards the north end, but there's no sidewalks on this street. This map is taken from our tracker map that I mentioned earlier, and I've just highlighted in this dash here, Beech Bend Drive, and showing that it is in the meeting and design phase, as you can see. And then nearby, we have other streets that have received traffic calming, like Harpeth Parkway West and Harpeth Bend Drive. This section of Harpeth Bend over to the right of the screen is in the construction queue portion of the of its project, so it's just waiting for it to be installed. And then nearby streets that have applied for traffic calming, highlighted in this kind of fuchsia pink, or Harpeth Knoll Road and Harpeth Bend Drive, but those have not been selected yet. A question was asked: when and where and how was the speed data measured? We measured it last spring, I believe, and it was somewhere midpoint along Beech Bend Drive. Have speeds slowed on Beech Bend since the buffered bike lanes were installed? I believe those were installed at the end of 2024. So they've been there for about a year, and our data came from spring of 2025. So surprisingly, I'm not sure what the speed was before the buffered bike lanes were installed, but we still are seeing some speeding, it seems. Okay. So now we're going to talk about our toolkit. We have several tools that we use to reduce speeding on residential streets. Some I'm going to go over all of them. Some are applicable to Beech Bend, some are not, just based on the characteristics of the street and so forth. So first off, I'll talk about is speed cushions, which is probably a tool you've seen implemented on streets elsewhere in Nashville.
Hey, Amy, can you hear me? Carrie Weiner.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
We've got a lot of people that don't know what a buffered bike lane is. So before you jump into this part of it, can you kind of explain what your terms are that may not be apparent to folks that don't speak the language?
Thank you. Absolutely. So the buffered bike lanes are bike lanes where we've incorporated a sort of a shoulder between the travel lane and the bike lane. sort of to protect the bike lane. So it's just giving more space and distance between vehicular travel lanes and the bike lane. And that's done with pavement striping. So the northern section of Beech Bend that has that additional width and striping, as well as the flexible delineator posts that are white installed periodically along the length. And so that just provides more protection for the cyclist. And those are shown, it's not exactly the same thing. This is not a buffered bike lane, but this delineator post is what I'm talking about.
Hey, Amy, somebody else
And
just asked a
yes.
question.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know what was the posted speed limit when the study was completed? And if that was before we dropped it to 25, I'm pretty sure it was 30 miles an hour. And if anybody remembers differently, would y'all post on the screen so we can see it? But I think it was 30 if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Someone is saying that it was 30 before it was dropped
Okay.
to 25.
Okay, great.
Um, yes. And I believe that the 25 miles per hour speed limit went into effect before our data was collected in spring of 2025.
Okay.
All right. So speed cushions, like I said, you've probably seen these, so they probably don't need a whole lot of discussion, but we do use them through the program uh, maybe most often because they're highly effective. And a lot of times when people are applying for traffic calming, this is kind of the thing that they have in mind. So, and the reason being probably because it's pretty effective. Um, but is rubberized modular devices that we can form into different configurations and drill into the pavement. So one of the nice things about them is, so if a street needs to be repaved, we can, NDOT or their contractor can drill, remove them, store them for the time being, and then put them back. They are also have a reduced impact to emergency vehicle response because of the gaps that you see in the way that they're laid out across the width of the street. It provides those gaps where the larger emergency vehicles have a wider wheelbase and they can therefore straddle them, and they're just less affected by having to slow down to traverse over them. When we install them, they may be sets of 2, 3, 4 even, depending on the width of the street, the pavement markings that are on the street, and what we're trying to fit it within. So you see those markings on them, like the bottom right corner will have center line markings, and then arrow markings as well. When we put them next to a bike lane, like this picture on the bottom right, we'll incorporate some use of flexible delineator posts so that the cushion doesn't encroach on the bike lane too much, but it keeps drivers from trying to circumvent the cushion by driving around it. So got some of those design tools in our tool belt. The picture on the bottom left is just more at ground view to show you how high they are. They're 3 inches high at their highest. This is a 10.5-foot long cushion, which is kind of our standard cushion length. And so the front and end modules are sloped, and then the one in the middle is flat. When we install these, we will use signage like you see in the top left picture to give warning to drivers as they approach the speed cushions with the advisory speed of 20 miles per hour. And then when we place these, we do them in a series. So we don't want to place one set of vertical device on the street and then walk away and do it, because yes, the speed would reduce right at that one location, but then drivers would tend to pick up their speed and maybe even speed faster to try to make up speed if there's not another set down downstream from them. So we'll do them in a series, somewhere between 300 to 600 feet apart. We have some limitations where we can't put them. We can't put them on steep grade or on, curves and things like that. Just going to monitor some of these questions here as we go along. Do they come up before winter so snow plows don't tear them up, leaving the bolts exposed? So NDOT's crews are, they're really good, honestly, with snow removal and so forth. And that is another reason why we use signage, to make sure that they know where the cushions are located and to be looking for those. I think there are probably very few instances where they have caused damage and issues, but and so the cushions stay down. They do not get removed during winter. All right. Okay. Some advice on the speed limit sign there. Okay, so speed tables are similar devices, same material, similar markings, and we can configure them in different widths across the street. But they are also vertical devices. They're typically 14 feet long when we install them, same max height of 3 inches. We also still use signage to mark them and install them in a series. And on both of these devices, I should say, we're looking at where driveways are located. We're not putting them right next to a driveway or right in front of a driveway. We're making sure that there's space between the cushion or the table for turning maneuvers in and out of driveway. So we try not to put them any closer than 10 feet, with 15 feet being our ideal minimum from a driveway. Vertical measure, local impact. NDOT has done some before and after studies of where speed cushions were installed, and found that they're very effective. This comparison on the left is of average speed before and after the install. And so the before speed was 31 miles per hour, and then after the cushions were installed, that speed went down to 22 miles per hour. And then the 85th percentile speed that I talked about earlier, before the cushions were installed on those 6 streets, it was 37 miles per hour. And then after, it went down to 25 miles per hour. So this showed us that here in Nashville, we've had a lot of success with these being effective in slowing speeds. We also use radar feedback signs. A fair amount. And those are signs that will show a driver their speed as they approach. They're typically paired with the speed limit sign, like you see in these 2 images. NDOT will use these radar feedback signs a lot of times in places where vertical measures are not applicable because of various reasons. The volume is too high, or there's too much vertical grade or curve on the road that prohibits us from using the vertical measures. Or sometimes we work with streets and neighborhoods that don't want the vertical measures and would rather just have these radar feedback signs. And they have shown to be effective as well, with their average speed reduction going down 6 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile speed going down 7 miles per hour. Excuse me. All right. We also use narrowing and pavement markings. Sometimes there's a really wide street that just looks really open and easy to drive fast on. So we'll incorporate some markings just to narrow that visual zone for drivers, and can also sometimes create some more comfort for pedestrians, creating a shoulder there. And also we're doing more of what we're calling slow, safer shoulders, which is when we have a significant width that we can designate to pedestrians and cyclists, for that matter, to use, and section out some of the pavement width and delineate it with these markings like you see here, which is kind of similar to what's been incorporated on parts of Beech Bend Drive already. And then one of the drawbacks is the effect that it can have on on-street parking. Okay. Then we also have bulb outs. These are usually more urban type of installations, where we have maybe a wide intersection that can be narrowed with pavement markings and the flexible delineator post, or these little speed bumps that are kind of in the shoulder area of a street, not in the drivable area. And that just slows down turning movements at intersections, improves visibility at intersections, and can reduce the crossing distance for pedestrians as they cross through intersections. Chicanes are a tool that we use to essentially create some curvature, horizontal curvature on a straight street. So it creates kind of a zigzag, if you will, in the street, like you see in these pictures. I believe they are on Fairfax Avenue in the Hillsborough Village area of Nashville, where the on-street parking is alternated from side to side on the street, which creates that horizontal deflection on the street. And drivers kind of need to slow down in order to stay in their lane and navigate through. We also have pinch points, where a street is narrowed using these islands that are created. So it essentially narrows a two-way street to a one-way at that little pinch point, and oncoming traffic kind of yields to each other as they approach this point in the street. Also may have some effect on street parking. It's probably not a case for Beech Bend, just given the characteristics of the street already. And then traffic circles, you are surely familiar with traffic circles in your neighborhood, as those are installed. They look different than this image, but there are some installed already on Harpeth Parkway West and Harpeth Bend Drive. I believe there's 3 of them in your neighborhood, but essentially they kind of operate like roundabouts, and you drive counterclockwise around them. And they're really installed just at intersections. But the Main Street traffic flow slows because they have to, go around the central island, and oftentimes the side street, the minor street approach, is still controlled by a stop sign. But these have to be typically installed at much larger intersections in order to fit. So I'm going to look at some questions here before we get into the next section. And then we'll move on. Let me see if I can find where I've left off. I'm seeing that the white delineator posts, most of them have been removed because of being placed in front of mailboxes, and that was causing some issues. Okay.
They were all removed because the neighborhood, during a paving project, they automatically just decided to put them in with no notice to the neighbors. And as was noted, they were put in front of mailboxes, in front of driveways, and it was impeding traffic. So I'm the one that had them take everything out until we could have this exact meeting that we're having today.
Great. Thanks for that information. I did the traffic calming project for Harpeth Bend, which Harpeth Bend Drive, which I think was earlier last year, so maybe spring of last year. And I had driven on Beech Bend then, and they were in place then. So I did not know that anything had changed since then.
Yeah, they had a very short lifespan.
I must have caught them right then. Well, good. Okay. This. Okay. More information about the bike lanes. We'll let that. I'm seeing that the bollards are not desired. Okay. All right. Understood on the bollards, delineators. Makes sense to me. So I think I haven't missed anything. Any specific questions? I appreciate everyone's comment. Oh, here's one last question. Can I repeat this statistic about the speeding on Beech Bend? So we measured the speed on Beech Bend at 37 miles per hour, and that's the 85th percentile speed. That means that 85% of the traffic was going 37 miles per hour or below, and 15% of the traffic measured was going above 37 miles per hour. We did measure the volume at I think it was around 730 miles per hour. I mean, that's all right, 730 vehicles per day. That's the two-way traffic over the course of a 24-hour period. And we typically measure kind of center to the length of the street. So we're capturing kind of the midpoint of the street. So that's where we would have measured for Beech Bend. There's a question about like how bad is the speeding on our street compared to others. It's higher because or at least in the on the higher side. 37 is pretty high for an 85th percentile speed, and I think our maximum speed was in the low 40s for this round. So 37 is kind of in that range. All right, let's talk about what I have put together as a concept for Beech Bend. I want to preface this with by saying that this is kind of a starting place. This is, we've taken a look at the street and found that we think this would be an appropriate plan. But what we're here to do is to get feedback from the neighborhood about the project, and that can help inform or tweak the plan as we put it together. And like I said, some of these tools in our toolbox can be applied to this street, and some are not applicable. And so we'll just go from there, and I can answer questions as we go along. So let me orient you first on the plan. So north is to the right of the screen, and so that means that the signal at Older Harding Pike is to the right, and then that means Harpeth Bend Drive intersection is, because the street is curved, over to the left and north of the screen. And so what we have put together is a series of speed tables along the street, and they would be placed around 500-foot spacing, and so that ends up being 9 sets along the length of the street. So we're trying to take into consideration the striping for the bike lanes, and trying to not impede the bike lanes. Some of the in the area where the buffered bike lanes have been installed, the drive width is more narrow. I think it's about 18 feet wide, and so the striping and marking would not have the center line. It would just be open like it is now. So like I said, this is, kind of our typical spacing along the length. We can reduce the number if that is something that's desired. But we try not to get them too far apart because they become less effective when they get too far apart. So I think I'll stop and say that if we have some comments about this or questions about maybe some other tool you saw that I went over that you might like prefer or something. And we're trying to get some consensus here from the community. We will talk after this about next steps and what makes this project go forward and or not, and so forth. So we have some, and you feel free to unmute and ask questions. That's okay too.
I do have a question, Amy. I'm
Sure.
Meredith Hunt, and I'm on phone, not on the other. I'm trying
Okay.
to understand. The speed cables are put there strictly to gather information.
The
Are
speed
those the
table,
speed cables that you're talking about? They go all the way across the street, and it would tell us people were speeding.
you're talking about our data collection equipment that has already been deployed, and that's where we got our 37 mile per hour data point for the
Right.
speeds.
Yeah, I remember that,
Right.
but a speed
So the
cable is
table,
just a little black wire that goes, or not
no,
wire,
the
but
speed, yes, the speed tables are the rubberized devices. They're much like speed cushions that you've probably
oh,
seen
okay,
a lot.
okay,
So they're the vertical devices installed into the pavement, and they're semi-permanent, if you will. They're drilled into the
okay,
pavement, and you drive over them like a hump. The table
okay,
just details that they have a flat top, and the length
okay.
of them. So they're
So
a
not as
vertical traffic
intrusive.
calming device.
Okay, not as uh, they're not any higher than your speed cushion.
No, they are not any higher than the speed
Okay,
cushion. Correct.
okay.
They're both are
Yeah,
3 inches
lower than.
high.
Okay,
They're not lower.
that's
They're just
thank you.
they don't have the gaps for the emergency vehicle response vehicles to
Mm,
straddle.
okay,
Um, and
yeah,
and that some people, I think it's a matter of opinion. Some people find that the speed tables are actually smoother to drive over than the cushions, because no matter where your wheel hits them, they're kind of on it at the same height and level.
right,
Um,
right. Okay.
all right, speed tables, just reading some more comments here, make sure I get any questions. There's a question, does the table and cushion leave pedestrian walking with no sidewalks being installed? So this project is not installing any sidewalk, but it would leave the same area for that's been designated for a bike lane and the buffer outside of the table. I have some comments that say would rather have the radar feedback signs, and comments on how many cushion or tables would be crossed to one's house. Okay.
Hey, Amy,
Yes.
could you talk a little bit about the efficacy of radar feedback machines versus speed tables or speed bumps, and which one is a more effective solution?
Yeah, I mean, some of our information is kind of anecdotal about the radar feedback signs because they do kind of lose a little bit of awareness to drivers. But we have found that they're effective. Some are more effective than others. It might depend on the driver mix or whatever on the street. But we do find that the tables and cushions, as they're installed, they are physical devices that really require a driver to slow down as they traverse over them. The feedback signs, some people are just offenders. They don't care and they're going to drive fast. And a sign flashing at them, it may not affect them, but the physical devices installed do. Then there are some drivers that really don't realize how fast they're going, and the radar feedback signs help them. It's those real offenders that the vertical measures that are physically installed into the road really have the greatest effect over.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, will bollards need to be installed with the tables? That's a great question. We typically would install one on either side of a speed table to keep drivers from trying to go around the speed table. We can think about other approaches to that if that is a limiting factor for the neighborhood, having had some experience with the bollards, but they would not need to be a full series along the whole length of the street. We would just want to put them there to keep drivers from going around them. There's some comments here about the yellow lines and putting them back. We can look into that as well. And I'm seeing another comment about the widened bike lanes without the delineators and without the center line. Drivers are driving just down the center of the road, I guess. Let's see that. And can we get the center line strips put back? I see a question here about how far away from driveways are the speed tables or cushions supposed to be installed. We will physically go out and measure these distances and mark them on the plan, but our guide is 15 feet away from a driveway to a speed cushion or speed table. In some instances, very rare, we'll go down to 10 feet in like urban areas where driveways are just really, really close together, and otherwise we couldn't put them in. But I don't think that would be an issue here. So 15 feet is our minimum. There's a comment here that just came in about the bollards, understanding the need for the bollards with the tables, but it would be nice to try the tables without. I bike with kids and a trailer, which is a tight fit, and the road is very narrow. So maybe some mailboxes and street parking is still a concern. Okay, yeah, that's certainly something we can look into. Do neighboring streets know that traffic will shift to them? That's maybe what happened with the post. This is kind of an interesting case because I really don't think that there's a lot of like shifting traffic for Beech Bend in terms of, it's kind of it's not a cul-de-sac necessarily, but it kind of is like a neighborhood that's separate. So I wouldn't see a whole lot of shifting traffic. I wouldn't expect it, at least. Okay, so maybe we should move on to what the next steps in the program are, and we can always come back to this plan and questions. Okay. Let's see. So this is a chart just kind of showing the flow of this program. I said earlier in the evening that it's an application process, so applicants apply. We select 2 times per year, and from there, from the application, we do our prioritization and selection and select twice per year there. And then we move into our neighborhood meeting, and that's where we are right now with this project. During this meeting, we're giving you some background information about your specific street, the program, the next steps. We go over our initial proposed plan, and then from there, oftentimes we move straight into design, where we, the engineers, will put together a much more detailed plan than what we just presented as the concept. And that's something that when it moves forward, the contractor can use it to install, and it's ready to go. And that's about a 2-month process. We make any minor adjustments that we need to with the plan, and then from there we can move into the online ballot phase. And that is about a 2-month period where, once the design's complete, we are able to post the design online and then send our postcard mailers out to all the eligible voters on the street. And I have some more details about all of that on some following slides. But from there, if the project is voted on and approved by 66%, then it would move into our construction queue, which is about an 8 to 10 month period. But, you see this other optional second meeting. We can always have a second meeting if needed. And that we would do after we've put together our more detailed design, taking into consideration the feedback received at the first meeting. There may be a need to have another meeting and talk with you all about any changes that were made, or make sure that there's more opportunities for people to engage and learn about the project. So that's always an option. I talked about balloting, but I want to be more detailed about it. This is a program that requires the people who live on the street to vote in favor of the project with 66%. So if 66% of the respondents vote yes, then the project moves forward. And the way we communicate that is through an online ballot. And it's sent, access to that online ballot is sent via mailers with unique IDs, similar to the postcards that you received advertising this meeting. It's a postcard. We have unique IDs to make sure we don't have duplicate votes and so forth. The voting period is open for 6 weeks. That the date that it closes is on the postcards. When you get it in the mail, you know when it closes. But I would encourage you to vote right away, so you don't lose your card and or forget that you have the opportunity to vote yes or no. So you want to be sure to vote. It's not a no vote is or a non-vote is not a no vote, essentially. And an image of that postcard is up on the left. There's also a phone number to reach NDOT's project manager if someone receives their postcard and they're unable to use the QR code or access the online ballot for any reason. They can reach out. You may need to leave a message and then get a call back about it. But so that is the balloting information. And then I want to talk about the zone, the eligibility. The program is such that it's the residential properties, also churches and schools, get 1 vote, and it's only those properties with right-of-way that abuts the street. So your address might be on a side street, but you have, you're on a corner, so you have some frontage on this street, so that property would also get a vote. Vacant properties we don't count, and owners with multiple properties just get one vote. So it's really one vote per household also. And then businesses are not eligible. And absolutely, if at any point you think you still received a postcard, but you didn't, please reach out to NDOT. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to vote that is eligible. So for Beech Bend, it's these properties that are highlighted in yellow. So it's all the properties essentially on both sides of the street between Old Harding Pike and Harpeth Bend Drive. I see some more questions have come in. Let me see if I can grab those. There's a question, what would be the minimum number of tables? Minimum number of tables that could be applied and still be effective. And, could we go maybe increase those distances between, perhaps instead of 9 tables, it could be 6. Those are certainly things we can take into consideration and look at. That's good feedback. Thank you. Here's a question about the voting. If things get to the voting stage and the vote fails, is that the end of the initiative, or do we scale back and try again? That is a great question. If the voting fails, then NDOT and us, we would come up with what we call a Plan B, and it would not include any vertical measures on the street. So we might be using, in this case, most likely the radar feedback signs would be a tool that would fall into that. And so it wouldn't require meetings or anything. The voting is essentially only required for the vertical measures or anything that's installed in the road, like traffic circles or something like that. The radar feedback signs, we would just implement those without going through all the meeting process again if it fails. How many residents applied is the question. The application requires a minimum of 4 residents to apply at once together. So there were at least that many. There's a question for a comment, I guess. If we come up with a revised plan that does not involve cushions and then have a second meeting. Okay, more questions about fewer tables. I think that is something that we could certainly incorporate. Is it 1 vote per household, or does each resident get a vote? It's 1 vote per household. So the unique ID is kind of what helps us make sure we don't have duplicate votes. And otherwise we wouldn't know how many people live in the house. So that's just the best way we can try to do that. Do residents on Beech Bend get an increased percentage of weight over the ones that just abuts? No. Yes, there's a comment about the cul-de-sacs that are off of the street that don't get a vote, but they travel the road. Yes, I understand that sentiment. It's the policy. We just have to apply it uniformly across all streets, and sometimes that issue does come up. Okay, more questions about adding the center lines back. I can look into that. There's some narrowing of the travel way that happened, I believe, when the buffer for the bike lane went in. So and there's also comment about yellow lines, the center lines make drivers speed up. That was added here. Okay. Great. This is all great feedback. There's some questions about the two cul-de-sacs, I think. Should be able to vote because they're coming on and off of Beech Bend, and there are several blind spots. We can also take a look and see if there's any specific vegetation issues that are causing that. That's a great something to put into the hub if you're approaching an intersection, and you can't see at an intersection because there's a tree or a bush or something. That's something that a hub Nashville might be able to help out with. Okay, so move on to make sure everyone has my contact information, and then we're going to talk about like next steps within this project, of course. But I just wanted to put this on the screen. We also have so my email address is amybirch@birchtransportation.com. We also have NDOT's email address, NDOT.TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. And this is the same QR code from maybe the second slide, I think, directing you to the Engage Nashville traffic calming pages. So you'll just scroll through and find the one specific for Beech Bend, but that's where we post updates about the project. When the next meeting is going to be scheduled, you would get a postcard. If we have another meeting, you would get a postcard as well, but it's more information there. And then results of the ballot once that happens can be posted there. And I also want to link you to NDOT's traffic calming website. It's TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. This is where NDOT keeps a lot of information about the program. Our tracker map that I referenced earlier is there. The results of ballot votes is posted there once those close and are tallied. We don't post individual votes, of course, just like the total percentage of who number that voted in favor, and whether it passed or failed. Our design plans are posted online, so from when you get the ballot, that those plans will be posted online, so you'll be able to really look at the design plan before voting. That's all posted there. Our traffic calming manual is posted there. And so just a lot of information about the program. So I encourage you to check that out specifically in the future as you're looking for information about this project. You may find the design plan posted or the results at the end. Okay, so we have some more comments. I'm just going to scroll through real quick. I think there's been a lot of discussion here, and we need to do some design work. It may be helpful to have a second meeting about this project once we've kind of refined our concept and put it into more of a construction layout with more details. From there, you can see the distance from any specific driveway to the table location. We also can look into the issue about the delineator post and what's the best mechanism to protect the bike lane without adding the delineator posts or limiting the delineator posts and so forth. So I think council member is still on. Yeah, I think it's probably worthwhile to have another meeting once we've kind of got a more refined plan together and do it that way. Yeah, some of our streets, I'll say, we present our concept. It's beloved by all, and there's, no need to retool, and we want to move the project forward, so we skip that second meeting part. But when we have a lot of discussion, I think it's worthwhile to get more feedback and okay. Any more questions here? Councilmember, does that sound like a good approach to you? Stepped away. Well, the way we will go about that, having a second meeting, is that we would communicate with Councilmember Weiner and our applicant contact about it to get it scheduled. And just like this meeting, you'll get a postcard announcement with the link to join. Typically, that's going to be in about 2 months from now. We'll have that plan kind of refined out. We'll still have opportunity to massage it and tweak it if needed, but we want to make sure that we've fully kind of tried to address these comments, come up with a plan that's still going to be effective, but taking into consideration some of the feedback we received, which I think is maybe fewer tables, reduce the number just by a couple perhaps, and then look at the center line, some of that, we need to do some actual measurements and see if that would go. I know the center line was removed for a purpose. The travel lane was narrowed. So, we have some limitations there perhaps, but I'll need to dig further into that. So, but that's what I'm hearing, as well as I think early on I saw some comments about adding more speed limit signs closer to Old Harding Pike, if I have that right. Make sure that they are visible.
Amy, I think I think we talked at our last 2 meetings about, it was not me, but I do remember that somebody had suggested, because sometimes the signs in the summertime and all with the trees, you don't see the 25 miles an hour, and they had asked for it to be on the street, down, like painted on the street, so when a person crossed over from Sawyer Brown that leads into Beech Bend, if you cross over, then that speed limit changes, and that way they were all visibly seeing it. Whether or not they see it or not, I don't know, but that was just another visual for them.
Thank you. We can consider that as well.
Amy, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Then is it my understanding that the speed bumps are not a done deal? Is that correct? We're still in the process of talking about it?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I want to know.
Yes, there. In order for the speed tables or cushions or anything like that to be installed, the project would need to receive at least 66% of the voters to be voting in favor of the project. So we still have a whole ballot process to go through after we've kind of tweaked our plan. But yes, it is not a done deal. And again, if enough votes are not in favor of the plan as presented for the ballot, then NDOT would do a lesser plan, essentially one that does not include vertical measures, and that would likely include radar feedback signage along the street in a couple of locations. If the ballot vote does not pass, that
So,
would be the evidence.
Amy, let's clarify that for them a minute. So, is what you're saying that if the plan that is presented is not approved by your 66% margin number, then does that give NDOT the authority to install something less, as you shared, without a conciliatory vote of the community that's affected?
That's typically how we do it, because what's done is often it wouldn't be delineators like what was previously installed. It would probably be radar feedback signs in probably 2 to 4 locations on the street. Yes, and the idea is, those are not significantly intrusive, and let's still provide some effective traffic calming, and we want to make sure that the street receives some level of traffic calming. Every street a little different. Some we might be able to do some pavement markings, like we mentioned, the 25 mile per hour. That's something that we've done in a Plan B when a ballot doesn't pass.
And
can you
who decides?
Amy?
I'm sorry. How do the cards get sent out? Because there are some people that aren't receiving the cards. So if you're asking for 66% and they're invited to a meeting, are the cards sent out to every single house number on Beech Bend?
They are. They do go to the property owner's address. So if a house is maybe used as a rental, then that postcard would actually go to the property owner's address listed on Metro's parcel data. So if the property owner is in Oklahoma, that's where the postcard is going. But again, if you get your postcard, please talk to your neighbor. Say, hey, I got the postcard. Did you get yours? Look for it. We don't want them to get lost in all the junk mail that we get in the mailbox. But and if you talk to your neighbor and they should have gotten one and they didn't, have them reach out to NDOT. We want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to vote.
Okay, that makes it easy. That kind of answers my question, because I did have a couple of neighbors that did not receive them, or they think they didn't receive them, but they hadn't been involved over this past year like the other 3 meetings we've had that a group of us have gone to and known about. So I thought, do they need to contact NDOT, or does NDOT have a listing that they send it out to?
We pull all the addresses for all the property.
That answers it. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. So can you explain to them that if you have 20 eligible voters and 10 of the eligible voters actually go to the site and cast their vote, those 10 voters, if you get 66 of the 10, that's who counts. So you need to make sure that if you want representation from the street, that you encourage everybody to vote. Because 50% of the neighborhood, or even 25% of the neighborhood, there's no minimum, I don't think. Am I wrong, Amy?
You're not wrong. That's correct.
There's no minimum. 3 people could decide to vote and 17 people could forget. And 3 people have made the decision for the neighborhood. So I want to make sure everybody understands what you need to do. and that's vote.
Well,
But you
the
also need to have
people, yes,
be on
yes,
this meeting.
because the people that don't vote are also making the decision about not having a cushion or tables or something because they made a choice not to, correct? They
No,
become a part of,
a non-vote is not a no vote.
Right.
So if you don't vote, it didn't count. So you have to vote. If you want to vote no, you have to vote no.
okay, okay,
If you want to vote yes, you want to vote yes. You got to vote yes.
okay.
Okay.
I see a getting some feedback from someone. Real quick. I just see a new question that came in, and I think it addresses something good. I want to make sure I address it. Can we try the paint and radar signs first, and then if they don't work, consider the speed bumps? No, not really. That would require a reapplication and a reselection of to be selected. So, the plan could be paint and radar feedback signs, but in order to be considered again, the street would have to apply for traffic calming again, and then be selected again, and then go from there, go through the process again. So it's not really iterative, because we're trying to get projects done, get the slow speeds, and move on to the next street. Okay. So again, I think that we should have a second meeting, and then so everyone has an opportunity to see a more detailed plan, and we'll go from there. But I'm leaving this meeting thinking, hearing that there's definitely some favor to the speed tables as shown. Perhaps we can maybe tweak the plan a little bit, maybe reduce the number of cushions. I heard that the delineators posts are not maybe we can come up with something else, or use them sparingly, but we want to make sure that we're still having an effective plan. So I think we will take this information, we will do our field work and our measurements, and come back to you all at a second meeting to just further discuss that plan and show it to you in more detail. And we'll look into the center line discussion and the additional speed limit signs and so forth as well.
Amy, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Really nice.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate the feedback. This is really helpful to make sure that we're on the right track and put together a plan that is desired by the community that will use the street. So thank you all, and have a good evening.
Thank you.